Today, we will be answering the question, is Phoenix a safe place to live? And is crime getting worse? It seems like every time you watch local late night news, there's more and more frightening stories. Or is local news just doing what it does best and sharing these scary late night stories? Or does Phoenix really have a problem? So today I'm going to break down what's really going on in Phoenix Metro as far as crime goes. And by looking at the facts and data, I do want to share what the safest neighborhoods, the 3 safest neighborhoods are in Phoenix Metro. But at the end of the day, you are the expert of your life. And ultimately, you are going to have to decide if Phoenix or any of the surrounding suburbs is the right place for you. I'm Courtney, your local Phoenix realtor, and I am here to be as transparent as possible. And if you have any questions or you're looking to move here, reach out. I'm here to help. So how is Phoenix doing compared to other areas, and where are we ranked? So we're doing okay. We're 29th percentile for safety, and this is according to crimegrade.org. This means that 71% of areas in the United States are safer, and then the rest, it's actually a little bit less safe than Phoenix. When we look at these numbers, it's really important to remember the size of Phoenix. So Phoenix is actually the 5th largest city in the United States. And what comes with being a larger city is you have higher crime rate. In addition, Phoenix has grown so much, particularly in the past couple years, and with this growth, we have seen more crime. When we compare Phoenix Metro to, let's say, a really small community in Ohio or Connecticut, crime is gonna look drastically worse in Phoenix than in this small community. On neighborhoodscout.com, the cities they listed as the safest in the United States, the population was all under 35,000 people. These are really tiny communities. So comparing Phoenix to a really small town in Ohio, it's kind of like comparing apples to oranges. So let's compare Phoenix to cities that are similar in size. Houston, which is the 4th largest city in the United States. And then I also picked Philadelphia, which is the 6th largest city in the United States. So first we're gonna look at US News Total Crime Index. The higher the number indicates that it's a safer community, and then the lower the number indicates that there's higher crime rate. Phoenix got a score of 7.2, which is okay. Houston received a score of 6.6, so indicating there was actually more crime in Houston. And then on the other side, Philadelphia, it actually received a score of 7.9, meaning that there was actually less crime compared to Phoenix. Neighborhoodscout.com was another resource that I used, and it was very similar numbers. Their scaling does work a little bit differently. Phoenix did receive a 4, Houston received a 2, which indicates higher crime, and then Philly actually received a 9. Now this is on a scale of actually 0 to 100, so you can see that these 3 major cities actually all did pretty poorly, which is pretty common when you're looking at these big metropolitan areas. You are seeing lower scores. So, okay, Phoenix isn't the best, it's not the safest, but it's pretty on par with these other metropolitan communities that we're seeing, like Houston and Philadelphia. Now let's jump in and look more specific areas in Phoenix. Now, when we're doing a crime analysis of Phoenix, I like to start with crimegrade.org. So this will give you a pretty broad perspective on where the really safe areas in Phoenix Metro, and then where are those higher crime areas. So if we look at the map here, we can see that red indicates that it's a higher crime area. And then when we progress through orange, yellow, and then towards the green shades, that means it's less crime in a safer area. So when you first look at the map, you can see towards that central Phoenix area, it is quite a bit redder. And then as you kind of spread out towards the suburbs, you are seeing less and less crime. Now, on the border where those red areas are, on the further outskirts of town, I will say there's not much going on there. These are pretty rural areas. When you first look at this map, you might say, ooh, I don't want to live in central Phoenix or more towards the center of town because it doesn't look very safe. And I will say crimegrade.org provides a really good broad perspective, but you really need to dive further into these immediate communities, because once you dive further in, you're gonna notice that a lot of crime can change from block to block. So then once you have a really good broad perspective, the next resource I really like to use is neighborhoodscout.com. I really like how this website is set up to look more specifically at certain zip codes, blocks, specific neighborhoods. Something to really keep in mind is when you're trying to determine what city that you might want to be living in, keep in mind that crime can change quite a bit in each city. And I think Glendale on the west side is a perfect example of that. There are some areas, particularly in that more older part of town, that are high crime areas. But if you go further north towards more of those newer communities, it is completely different, even though it has the same city name. And then on the east side, Mesa is a great example of how much things can change. So the closer you are to downtown Mesa, there is quite a bit more crime there. However, it's just a few blocks northwest of that, and you have these $1 million neighborhoods that are quite safe. So I personally recommend looking at specific zip codes, and even better, then start looking at specific blocks. Now, if you're worried about crime and you're looking at a specific area in Phoenix, the best thing you can do, if you can do this, is actually go and drive around these neighborhoods. Even better, go at a time where most people are home, so on the weekends or in the evenings, and just walk around. You'll pretty quickly get a good feel of the neighborhood and whether this is a place for you or not, or if you feel comfortable living in this area. Just as a rule of thumb, and when you are looking at different areas to move, just keep in mind the closer you are to the center of Phoenix Metro, just be aware that crime can change quite a bit from neighborhood to neighborhood. Now, the further out you go into the Phoenix suburbs, you don't see it changing as quickly, but you will see some variations within each city. Now, a note on affordability, house prices, and its relationship to crime. So right now, the median home sale price in Phoenix Metro is a little bit below $440,000. If you are looking in the price range below this number, you're probably gonna have to consider one of these three things. The first thing is you may be in a higher crime area. So if you are looking for a home below that median sale price and you want to be more central to Phoenix, you're probably going to be looking in some neighborhoods that have higher crime. Now, if you absolutely do not want to live in a high crime area, then the other thing you're going to have to consider is moving further outside on the outskirts of town. Perfect example of this is Buckeye. It's on the west side of Phoenix, and the median sale price there is actually around $385,000. Now, if you don't want to be on the outskirts of town and you also don't want to be in an area with maybe slightly higher crime rate, the other thing that you consider is looking at either apartments or condos. Now, you aren't getting this beautiful high-rise condo in Scottsdale or downtown Phoenix for that price, but there are certain pockets of neighborhoods that are a little bit more central where you will be able to find an apartment in that price range. I did promise that I would share the safest suburbs in Phoenix Metro, and I'm going to talk about the top 3 safest suburbs according to neighborhoodscout.com. So number 3 and number 2 actually came in as a tie, but we're going to talk about Gilbert, Arizona first. Now, if you already live in Phoenix Metro, this is not going to come at you as a surprise because it's had a reputation for years as a very safe community. Gilbert, since the early 90s, has exploded. So back in 1990, the population was only about 30,000 people, and now we're getting close to 300,000 people that live in this town. It's technically a town, not a city. It's no longer the farm town that it once was. There has been so much coming to this area, even in the past couple years. We have plenty of bars, restaurants, breweries. There's a lot of family events and festivals. We even have this fantastic downtown area. However, Gilbert does come with a price. It's not a cheap area to live in. It's not as expensive as Scottsdale or Paradise Valley, but the median home sale price here is about $585,000 right now. So the city that actually tied Gilbert as far as their crime index, according to Neighborhood Scout, this city was Buckeye, Arizona. If you've been doing research into the Phoenix metro area, you probably already know Buckeye is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. You are a little bit further on the outside of town. There's a lot of new construction there, and it is much more affordable. Coming in at number 1 as the safest city, according to Neighborhood Scout, and drumroll please, it is Queen Creek. There is so much to share about Queen Creek, but please check out this video right here. I get down into the details of what it is like to live in Queen Creek, Arizona. But if you have any other questions regarding crime in the Phoenix area, or maybe you have questions about moving here, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help. Thanks so much for your time and have a fantastic day.